Welcome everyone to this video. Today we're going to be talking about strings in Solidity. Alright, so let's get right into it. So I'm going to show you how to manipulate strings, manage strings, and just a high level understanding of strings, because it's an important part of any programming language. Alright, so let's set up some variables here. So string, that's a keyword for string. Let's make that public. Sample string. Right, and then let's just call that hello world. Let's make another one. Alright, so let's call this one byte. Alright, so first thing you probably notice is that I'm assigning a string to two different data types. So you have string and you have byte. So string is the simplest way to store a string in Solidity, but it is not very gas efficient, right? So byte is more gas efficient, and let me go ahead and just show you the difference with the two. So these are both public variables, so you can call them, right? So let's deploy that contract. Okay, so you see two buttons here. So you see sample byte, sample string. So if I click sample string, you're gonna get back hello world, right? If I click sample bytes, you're gonna get back encoded data. Right, so there's a difference. So I'm just showing you that just to point out that there is a difference, but for this video we're only going to cover strings. You know, in a more advanced tutorial in the not too distant future, we'll delve more into bytes and how that works. But just know that these two data types are what are used to handle strings. Alright, so let's create a function. Let's call that set string. So we're gonna pass a string into this function. So you set the data type string, and once you pass a string into the function, it has to be memory. And we can also discuss that in a future tutorial, in a more advanced tutorial, but for now just know that that has to be memory. And let's make this public. Alright, so we're going to assign the string that we pass to the sample string variable. So let's do this sample string string. Okay, so that should be pretty obvious what is happening here. Once you call this function, you pass in a string, and then that string goes into sample string, which would change the value of this. Alright, and let's deploy that real quick just to show that. Alright, so you have set string. So we already know that if we click on sample string, it's gonna say hello world. So let's change this to something. Let's just use my name, Dwayne. Set that as a string. Click sample string. See, it's now Dwayne. So pretty straightforward, right? So that's how you set the string. Let's do a function to compare two strings. Compare two strings, pass in the keyword string, has to be memory, and let's call that my string public so that we can access it. Make that a view, returns, and let's return a boolean. Alright, so When working with strings, and if you're gonna compare them, we have to use sorry, we have to hash it into its byte type representation in order to compare it, right? That is because under the hood, Solidity works with bytes. When it needs to do any kind of processing or anything like that. If it's just storing it in memory, it can just stay as a string. So what we're gonna have to do to compare it is we're gonna have to use a function called kitchak256, and that would be similar to in other languages SHA-256. It's the same thing really. It's just called kitchak in Solidity. So it's a hashing function. Alright, so kitchak256. So we do ABI encode packed, and then we add the sample string PLE to that. Alright, so ABI encode and packed. We can get more into the details of what that is in the future, but it's basically encoding this data so that it can be compared, so that it can be hashed, right? Alright, so we do that, and then we use a comparison operator, which is two equal signs, kitchak256 again, ABI encode packed, and then we're gonna grab the variable that we passed in, put a semicolon on that, and then it's gonna return a bool. So just do return, and then it's gonna tell you if it's gonna say true or false if the string is equal to the sample string. And let's test that really quick. Alright, so compare two strings. So let's just say hello, and that should return a false. There you go, false. Alright, but if we were to do this, hello, set the string as hello, and then compare the two strings again and get true. And I'm sure you can figure out why that is. Alright, so let's concatenate two strings. So let's bring two strings together. Function concatenate strings, and let's make that public. You returns, let's just return the string, and then you have to use a keyword memory to return. To return a simple string, you have to use a keyword memory. Alright, so let me think about this. Alright, so yeah, so we're gonna have to convert it to bytes. So let's do bytes memory. Let's call that data. Alright, so we use the ABI encode packed, and let's try this. Let's create a name. So let's do bytes byte public first name. Let's call that John. Let's try this. Since we're using ABI encode and pack, I can actually make this a string. So last name, let's call that Snow. And some of us might already know who Jon Snow is. For those who know. So let's see, first name, and then make a space, last name, and then let's return data. Okay, so what we're gonna have to do, all right, since we're returning, actually I did this by accident, but this is a good learning opportunity. So since we're returning a string, and this is in bytes, we're gonna need to cast it into a string, right? So this is how you cast bytes into a string. So string data semicolon. There you go. So this should work. Let's deploy that. Alright, so concatenate string, so that's this one. Bam, there you go, Jon Snow. So we brought two strings together. One was a string, one was bytes. Using ABI encode packed, it converted the string into bytes, and concatenated it, and then we put that into a variable called data. Then in order to return it in a human readable format, we cast it back into a string and then returned it. So this is how you manipulate strings in Solidity. Not too complicated, pretty simple, especially when you're just using the string data type. So now under the hood, Solidity really processes this information using bytes, and at the lowest level of the programming language, Solidity accesses everything in blocks of 32 bytes at a time. So everything is getting converted back into 32 bytes. But we can go into bytes deeper in a more advanced tutorial. But for now, this is how you manipulate the string. Pretty simple. And these strings are actually arrays, so you can get the lengths of them, and you can find different characters by indexes. So that's it. Thanks for checking out the tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Go ahead, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.